know that foodborne illnesses and microorganisms are at fault for making people sick. But how can you stay safe from those microorganisms and keep the food you work with uncontaminated? Well, that's what we're going to discuss in this lesson.
You must first know about contamination so that you can look out for it. Let's start with the basics. Where can contamination occur? The answer: anywhere. Food can get contaminated at any point in its journey from the farm to the plate. So, starting from growth, harvesting, storage, transport, cooking and serving, at every point, food can get contaminated.
Though contamination can occur from the source, more frequently we see it occur by cross-contamination. Cross-contamination means harmful contaminants get transferred from one surface or item onto another.
Cross-contamination is particularly hazardous when it comes to raw, fresh and ready-to-eat foods such as meat, fruits, salad or vegetables. If the food is not cooked properly, harmful contaminants remain in the food and cause problems.
Now, let's talk about the types of contamination. There are mainly 4 types of contamination: microbiological, chemical, physical, allergens.
Microbiological contamination includes bacteria, yeasts, molds, and viruses. Chemical contaminations are substances from water to food ingredients, cleaning agents, pest control chemicals, environmental, pesticides, and food additives. Physical contaminations are objects such as glass, packaging materials, jewellery, screws, bolts, etc. Allergens are constituents of food that cause dangerous allergic reactions in some people.
So, how do contaminations occur? Well, contamination occurs by 3 main methods: direct, indirect, and passive.
Direct contamination occurs when one type of food touches or drips onto another type of food, which may be raw or cooked. This most commonly happens when juices from raw meat or dirty objects touch cooked or ready-to-eat foods. For example, when raw meat is stored on the upper shelf of a refrigerator, juices can drip onto cooked food below, causing direct contamination. Another example could be where raw fish is placed next to a burger being cooked on a grill.
Direct contamination is easily preventable by following the standard protocols during the transport, storage, and preparation of the food. Indirect contamination occurs when bacteria are transferred to high-risk foods via something else, such as hands, worktops, chopping boards, equipment, or cleaning clothes. For example, using a dirty oven for cooking food can cause indirect contamination.
Direct and indirect contamination are fairly easy to understand. But what about passive contamination? Can you guess what that is? Don't worry if you can't guess. We will now talk about passive contamination to give you a better idea. Passive contamination is any contamination that is neither direct nor indirect. Passive contamination can occur in many ways. Let's look at a few examples. Uncooked fruit and vegetables can become contaminated by soil or airborne microorganisms. Insects can contaminate them with urine and feces. Milk and dairy products can become contaminated automatically when stored for long periods or left unattended. Water can become contaminated when left stagnant. All of these are passive contamination. We hope you now have a clear understanding of how contaminations occur.
Okay, so far you've learned where contaminations occur, the types of contaminations, and how they occur. But all of that information doesn't help you prevent contamination, does it? If you can't prevent contamination, then all of that information you received till now will be a waste, and you'll be in trouble with the law. Well, luckily there are specific guidelines that you can follow to prevent contamination and various kinds of hazards. Let's have a look at those now, shall we?
Let's start with distribution and deliveries, as it's a primary source of hazard and contamination. Food delivery vehicles must meet high standards, including using refrigerated vehicles for high-risk foods, even for short journeys, installing thermometers in all vehicles, never loading hot or warm food onto vehicles designed for chilled or frozen food, pre-calling vehicles before cold food are loaded onto them, opening freezers in all vehicles the shortest time possible, switching freezers off when the doors are open, ensuring that all delivery vehicles are regularly cleaned, delivering high-risk chilled food at 5 degrees C or less, delivering frozen food at minus 18 degrees C. Records must be kept of all deliveries and contents so they can be traced after any food poisoning outbreak or customer complaint.
And don't forget, the outer packaging must be disposed of before food is brought into preparation or serving areas. Now, let's talk about storage.
All low-risk foods should be stored in dry food stores. These are areas where low-risk foods are safely stored at room temperature. A correctly maintained dry food store must be cool, well ventilated, and adequately lit to allow regular, thorough cleaning and checking.
Food racks in the store should be clear of the floor. The food should be sealed in pest-proof tubs and never placed on the floor. Discarded packaging must be properly disposed of.
As for storing fruits and vegetables, they must be stored well away from other foods. Regular examination for signs of mould. Any vegetables with soil still attached should be stored below other foods. Potatoes should be...
Moving on, let's talk about temperature control. Temperature is also a very big factor to keep in mind, because strictly controlling temperature is a must for preventing illness. Between 5 degrees C to 63 degrees C, bacteria multiply exponentially. So, make sure to store cold foods below 5 degrees C and cooked food above 63 degrees C. Let's look at some preventative measures you can take, starting with thawing foods.
Food must be thawed thoroughly. When food is frozen, bacteria or spores inside become dormant. They get activated by rising temperatures. If food isn't thawed correctly, cooking won't destroy all the bacteria. Thawing is performed by allowing food to rest at room temperature, then holding it under running water, and lastly, microwaving it between 10 degrees C and 15 degrees C. The thawing of meat and poultry should be done away from other food to prevent contact with juices. Treat defrosted food as fresh food and refrigerate or prepare it immediately.
Digital probe thermometers are used to check safe cooking temperatures. Checking is done by inserting the thermometer into the thickest part of the meat. Digital probe thermometers can be calibrated by placing them in ice to check if it reads 0 degrees C and in boiling water for 100 degrees C. 1 degree C of variation is usually allowable.
Cooking should be continued until safe temperatures are reached. Remember to clean and disinfect the thermometer after use. For frozen delivered food, test them on the spot and place them in fresh storage within 20 minutes. Check frozen food for freshness, temperature, colour, smell, and proper packaging. Deliveries must be recorded for traceability. Remember, when refrigerating, maintain space between foods for air circulation, never overload, never place food in front of cooling units, rotate stock to use the oldest first, check use-by dates daily, immediately remove out-of-date food, seal opened or part-used food in labelled non-metallic containers, use within 48 hours, destroy food stored at above 8 degrees C for over 4 hours, never keep open tins in fridges.
Freezers must be maintained at between minus 18 degrees C and minus 22 degrees C. If fridge temperatures are too high, they should be immediately reported to the supervisor. If you can't fix the problem, call an engineer.
When reheating, the same temperature guidelines used for cooking must be followed. Only reheat food once. And keep in mind, don't cool food for more than 2 hours. You can use a blast chiller, ice bath, or fan to accelerate the cooling process. Run cold, clean water over boiled eggs, potatoes, rice, or cooked vegetables, or spray plastic-covered meat with water.
Keep cooked food covered and away from high-risk foods while cooling. Then store it below 5 degrees C. Never put hot food straight into a refrigerator. Now it's time to talk about stock control. Stock control ensures food isn't sold or served beyond its shelf life. It's usually a supervisor's job to ensure that everything that is used in food preparation is up to date.
High-risk food kept beyond its use-by date rapidly begins to accumulate harmful bacteria. Dried, canned or frozen foods with a longer shelf life can also begin to deteriorate after their use-by dates. So always keep your stock in control and discard any food that is beyond its expiration date.
It is essential you know the difference between a use-by date and a best before date.
Use-by dates are found on chilled, high-risk foods and indicate the time and date when the product becomes unsafe to eat. It is against the law to sell, use, distribute or display food past its use-by date. Best before or expiry dates are concerned with food quality and indicate the length of time in which the food is at its best. After this date, food may not be spoiled but might be discoloured or lose flavour or texture. Most foods can be sold beyond their best before date, but the customer knows the food may not be at its best.
The next thing you should know about is recording and labelling.
UK law requires specific detailed information to be clearly displayed on all pre-packed foods, such as manufacturer's details, name and brand of product, product weight, list of ingredients in descending order of weight, cooking, heating and storage instructions, use by or best before dates to indicate shelf life, place of origin and manufacture, nutritional information, presence of allergens. And lastly, to prevent food from becoming contaminated while it's being served, don't handle utensils, plates, glasses and serving platters improperly. Use different utensils to serve meat, fish, poultry, vegetables and dessert. Use tongs to put ice and drink garnishes into glasses. Hold all utensils by their handles and keep your fingers away from the food. Handle plates and bowls by their bases.
This lesson comes to an end here.